It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, and I hereby call this regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council to order. Could you please bow your heads for invocation by Councilman Lisi?
God of justice and mercy, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Diamond Head. We pray for your wisdom and your guidance as we conduct this meeting and in all things. Guide us and help us to always be instruments for good. We ask for your blessing on our country and on the citizens of Diamond Head. We ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
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 City Clerk? Well, that's not the order of the
Roll call
agenda.
and then pledge.
That's okay. You messed it up, but I'm rolling with it. We're rolling with the way it's written.
Mayor,
Here?
Councilmember Finley,
Here.
Councilmember Lisi,
Here.
Councilmember Cumberland, Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to move to adjust the agenda. Under the action agenda, I would like to add 2022-207, a motion to award quote for Diamond Head Drive East replacement to Moran Hauling in the amount of $18,083. Okay, that number's wrong on my motion.
18,583.
One second. It's $18,583.80 plus an additional $11,204.25 for additional work relating to the relocating of a water main for the total cost of $29,788.05. I'd also like to correct under the docket of claims to change the total amount to $384,534.07. That's on the last page of your agenda. And under the resolutions, item number 4, it says now therefore to be resolved by the governing authorities of the city of Biloxi. We are the city of Diamond Head, so I'd like to make sure we change that. And thank you for letting us know about that mistake. And is there any other action we need to change, or can I get a motion to move as amended?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Could I get a second? Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council will be on June 21st, 2021 at 6 p.m. in Council Chambers located at 5000 Diamond Head Circle. We will be having a workshop that day for the budget, so please come back at 5 p.m. We got a nice crowd here tonight. Y'all need to come back for the budget workshop. City Hall will be closed on Monday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. The city's 4th of July firework display will be held at 9 p.m. Saturday, July 2nd on the south side. And City Manager, I'm going to mention again, the VFW is very interested in doing the Veterans Parade. Can you please get with them this week?
I've already spoke with them. I've met with the police and talked to Ken that, you know, the police are not comfortable with the amount of, they're going to have extra patrol that evening, so they were not comfortable having a parade during the day, that we can secure that event.
Okay, well, maybe we need to get with the police. It's going to be not a Mardi Gras parade with beads. It's just going to be the veterans and a few cars.
And again, I've communicated with them on what they have staffing-wise and what needs to be here at night, in addition to Marine Patrol, DUI, things going on throughout the county. They basically told me they didn't feel comfortable with it.
Okay, so we're just going to do fireworks?
That's the way I have it right now, unless the council directs otherwise.
That's
mean, y'all always have that authority,
money
but-
for fireworks.
Talking to AJ in the sheriff's office, they did not feel comfortable.
Okay, well, maybe we can think of something else, because we don't want to spend all that money on fireworks and just have residents down there for 10 minutes. You
I
know,
mean-
we need to think about what we can do, because we want it to be a nice event, nice 4th of July event, and honoring our veterans is very significant. So maybe we
And-
can think of another way to honor our veterans at that point.
And again, that's something I did talk to Ken about.
Okay, well, let's think of something we can do for that, and I'll help work on that as well.
Appreciate it.
Memorial Day service, the VFW here in Diamond Head had a celebration, and many residents attended, and it was a beautiful ceremony. The guest speaker, the honor speaker of the day, was a Colonel Robert Johnson, and I invited him here tonight to do the speech that he did for all of us on Memorial Day. It was so moving, and I'd like to, after he's finished, please add this to the minutes and have it as part of our minutes. Thank you, Colonel, for coming tonight.
So I'm retired Army Colonel Bob Johnson, and I'm truly honored to be with all of you tonight to recite the Memorial Day speech that I gave last week during the Diamond Head Memorial Day ceremony. I appreciate the mayor asking me to join you tonight as we remember and honor the brave warriors that gave their lives for ours, spending their last moments on this earth in defense of this country and of its people. Memorial Day is a time to honor, reflect, and remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. Memorial Day was first established after the Civil War by Union veterans and was first celebrated at Arlington National Cemetery in 1868 and was known as Decoration Day. It wasn't until 1971 that it became an official national holiday known as Memorial Day in remembrance of all of those that gave their lives for our country. Memorial Day acknowledges our responsibility as American citizens to remember the nation's brave fallen men and women, whether they died on foreign lands in the heat of battle or after a lifetime serving in the uniform of our military services. Memorial Day is a day of remembrance for all those that have served our great nation and that we have lost. And it is important to know that Memorial Day is not only to remember only those that paid the ultimate price in battle. It is about remembering all those that we have lost that honorably served our country. President Ronald Reagan once stated that some people live an entire lifetime and wonder if they have ever made a difference in the world. A veteran doesn't have that problem. Serving one's country is one of the most honorable and selfless things that one can do for their country, knowing that this service could come with paying the ultimate price. We pay tribute to those brave souls who raced into gunfire, roared into battle, and ran into hell to face down evil. They made their sacrifice not for fame or for money or for even glory, but for country. President Harry S. Truman once said that our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. On this Memorial Day, it is so very important to remember that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We did not pass it to our children or our grandchildren in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed down for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our grandchildren's children that it was once like in the United States where men were free. I don't have to tell you how fragile this precious gift of freedom is. Every time we hear, watch, or read the news, we are reminded that liberty is a rare commodity in this world. This is a day to remember others paid for every free breath that you ever get to take, and that we must protect it. Now let us pledge to make the most of our freedom that those that we honor today so gallantly and brilliantly fought for and they died to protect. Words cannot measure the depth of their devotion, the purity of their love, or the totality of their courage. President Ronald Reagan once said, "As we honor their memory today, let us pledge their lives, their sacrifices, and their valor shall be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this nation." We can only hope that every day we can prove worthy not only of their sacrifice and service, but of the sacrifice made by the families and loved ones that they left behind. We can never replace them, we can never repay them, but we can always remember. And today, that's what we are doing, we remember. Thank you for attending. I appreciate the opportunity tonight. If you think about the sacrifices, just think of D-Day yesterday, where 2,500 Americans died in the first 24 hours. So it's always important to remember and honor our fallen. I also ask that you remember those that are deployed all over the world today and in harm's way. And I ask that you think about all our veterans that struggle every day in our country. For those of you that don't know, we're losing 22 veterans to suicide a day. May God bless America through these challenging times, and may God watch over our nation. And to those heroes that we lost and remember today, we'll never forget. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much again for coming. And can we have a copy of that?
Yes, absolutely.
If you mind giving it to the city clerk, we would like to spread it upon the minutes. Thank you. We have quite a few presentations tonight, so we're going to move a few up. We're going to move up our comptroller, John McCraw, to do his first. And then we're going to go down, we'll go back to the original schedule after this.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. We're going to talk about the FY22 budget that we currently are in, and then we will be currently working on our FY23 budget, and we'll present that like you said at our next council meeting. Wanted to start just to talk about the 22 budget and where we are and what it looks like so far. You should have in front of you 2 sheets of paper, a revenue sheet, and then your expense sheet. For revenues, we are looking very good. Our biggest source of revenue, of course, is going to be taxes. And you can see projected right now, we're looking at about collecting about 102% of what we've budgeted for. So we're doing very good as far as that goes. Looks like we'll be okay on our collection of revenue. Overall, our revenue projection is about 97%. And the main reason for that is, if you see down at the very bottom of the page, our gross proceeds on a capital lease hasn't come in, nor sale of our assets. The gross proceeds on capital lease we are not going to do because we're not going to actually do a capital lease. We went ahead and bought our equipment outright instead of leasing it. So we didn't have those proceeds coming in. So that's the reason why you're not seeing that $120,000 in there. The sale of the assets, we haven't done that yet. So hopefully that will happen before the end of the fiscal year. And that money will go on this budget. So we'll see that happen. So. But as of right now, I can't say it's going to happen. We may not get there before the end of the fiscal year. We are in that last 4 months of our fiscal year, just so you understand. Pretty much everything else is in good shape. You'll probably notice the other big number that's in a deficit is our interest. Unfortunately, we had to redo our depository, and our interest rate was just absolutely nothing. So. We just are not collecting anything like what we were collecting from the 3 previous years. So she had budgeted for that, expecting that interest rate to stay the same, and unfortunately it was nowhere near it when the time came. So, but we'll move on past that, and we should be in great shape as far as revenue goes. Looking on the other side, the expenditure side, like I said, we're in the 8th month of our 12-month fiscal year, or about 67% of the year. Currently, this is as of May 31st, and you can see our expenses are right in that same number, about 67% for the year. So overall, we're doing great. We're not expecting anything outlandish or anything odd to happen as far as our expenses go. As you can see on here, we have our budget and then how much we've already expended. And the next one is just salaries. And the reason I put that in there is what's expended includes encumbrances, anything that we've already written purchase orders for. Salary, unfortunately, doesn't get encumbered, but it's going to happen as we are all employed already, so unless that changes quickly. So I went ahead and put the salary there to show you what the remaining budget is when you take the salary out. And you can see roughly we're in the 60s to 70% range on just about every department. About the only one that's not is our admin department, and it's just in there. So, but we'll hit it, and we shouldn't be too far off as far as what our expenditure budgets were. Okay. Any questions about that? This is just our general fund, in case you need to know that. Others are grant funds and everything. As the expenditures happen, we'll get our reimbursements and cover those expenses as they happen. So all those are looking very good and shouldn't have any issues there as well. All right.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions to my left? Any questions to my right? I just have one. On the court fines and fees,
Yes.
it was projected 49.5, and we're down 31,961.
Yes, and that is a projected based on what we've collected in the last 4 months. It's really only about 17,000 is all we've collected so far this year. I asked them that question. It's writing less tickets than normal, and just people are not paying, just flat out. It's what,
So it's actually
either-
17 current?
all we've collected so far
Collected.
this year is only 17,000 for court fines. Just people are not willing to pay. Either the economy's got them down and they can't afford it and just will not pay, or just refuse anyway. So it's unfortunate. It's one I'd looked at and went and spoke with the court department to kind of get their opinion on.
Mhm.
And that's just what they're seeing as well, is they're just refusing. You can threaten them all you want, but they just are not doing it and won't pay. So, I know.
And we still need to turn those folks over so that their income
Yes.
tax can be.
They either get turned over, they can get arrested, she said, but when that happens, if they spend a night in jail, that's $100 taken off their fine if the judge so determines. And so then you don't get the money anyway.
We're going backwards.
Exactly, because it cost us $25 to house them, so.
Okay, we need to think on that one. That's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Mayor, if you don't mind, that has been trending, if we watch that from really the last 5 years, that revenue stream is dramatically reducing.
It has hit the lowest I've ever seen it.
And you're 100% correct. I mean, this is something Jeannie and I talked about when we go to MML, and one of the ideas was looking at a new collection agency compared to the one we're currently using. We have been referred to a couple, so we intend to talk to them as new vendors. We are also using the state program to go after income tax money that somebody may be getting returned to them. But, I mean, when we reviewed this together, I said the same thing. I said, what do we got going on here? It is reducing drastically.
All right, well, thank you.
And Jeannie,
Oh, Anna
Jeannie's
has
just
it.
indicating the state program has been suspended temporarily.
I'm just curious, do you know if the people who aren't paying are kind of repeat offenders? You know, is it one person with 10 tickets, or is it?
That was one thing they did say, it's a lot of repeat offenders that
Okay.
know they don't have to pay.
Right, so
And can
why
sooner or
worry
later
about
get
it?
away with it. Yeah,
That's a problem.
unfortunately.
Okay. Just
What about,
curious.
oh, sorry,
I was just
Councilman.
curious, that's it.
I've got a lot of lists that needs to be done. What about public service options? Have we reviewed that? Because there is plenty of work that needs to be done around the city. Plenty. All right, well, we need to start implementing that.
Do we have anything for, like, three-time offenders that just walk away, the scofflaws, to, like, put them in jail after 3 times of refusing to pay? I think even if it's a loss of money, it's worth it to send a message to others that if you repeatedly do this and don't pay.
Now, one of the things that really countrywide has happened lately is there's been a lot of changes with the laws with respect to debtors. You'll see the city of Biloxi entered into a consent agreement. You cannot put people in jail simply because they cannot pay a fine. It's not an option. So, if someone is in contempt of court, doesn't appear, things of that nature, as John mentioned, we pay that cost to the county when we put someone in jail for not appearing in court. And it gets credited to the balance that they owe to the city, but you cannot, as a rule, put anyone in jail just simply for not paying fines. And so really, the cities throughout the coast, throughout the country, they're dealing with this. So I think the combination of just we're writing less tickets than we've written in the past, and the fact that, word is out, folks know. You really, if you don't pay, they're not coming to get you just for that reason. So it's countrywide that this is a phenomenon. When the programs of, doing, work and things like that, again, that's more of a cost to the city than it is putting money in. So, like I said, I just caution you all that the city, the municipal court is not a revenue generating, function. And so we just have to be really careful the way we enforce the laws and how we do it. There are creative ways. That program that Jeannie talked about that the state has initiated, has been suspended, but what it does is when the municipalities and the counties report some of these old debts to the state can hang on to tax returns. And that's been effective. I know they've had some issues with the program as it started, but it can be an effective way to start getting some of these fines paid. So.
One other thing.
I think community service. I mean, we're looking at 140,000 out and 17 in, and we have a lot of work, and we get people are having hard times. They are. It's across the country, and sometimes it's a choice between groceries and gas. So we get that, but maybe we need to start looking at community service.
One other comment, I would just let you know that one thing Jeannie and I have been talking with Lisa and Lauren about in the court department was just like we have the police and other departments providing reports to you guys, is to monthly, basically as a way of having some accountability, is to have a report coming from the court department as well. So there'd be some specific numbers in there that track what's happening. Okay? So that's something we're in the process right now of working out.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Go Shuckers. And next we have Rostan Solutions, which is our disaster management firm. We have Mr. Kyle Jones to give us an update on the SWIFT program.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I asked Mike before this meeting if I could quickly, while I was here, if I could quickly run down 4 things for updates as far as money coming in, playing off what John was just talking about, before I gave you all the overview of the SWIFT program, which the anomaly is, it's a FEMA program called SWIFT, and that's really counterintuitive because
There's nothing SWIFT.
there's
about
nothing
FEMA.
SWIFT about it. But before I do that, which I think y'all are going to take an action item on later in the agenda, real quick. So as it relates to Hurricane Zeta and the costs, the city has been reimbursed a little over $1.5 million, which is great news. We've had some hiccups with MEMA, as everybody might know. We have another close to $550,000 that's in the last review queue within MEMA. It's already been awarded by FEMA. The word is obligated by FEMA, so it's in the final stages of the MEMA review queue, which is, again, great news. I'm expecting that within the next 45 to 60 days. And then our entire fee that we've incurred and charged to the city and that the city has been paying, even in addition to what we've charged, y'all will have a buffer of about $115,000, which we haven't even expended that. But all of our fees are going to be 100% reimbursed. That project's already obligated, and it is pending MEMA final review. So that's already been approved by FEMA, which that's great. Last week we also submitted as you know, y'all took an action item on this. We submitted our second appeal, which is going to FEMA headquarters in Washington for the commercial debris denial cost for Hurricane Zeta. The appeal was well done by one of our attorneys. We feel pretty good about it. So we'll see. It's in headquarters hands.
So our appeal got denied.
The first appeal, but as I told y'all, that's FEMA local staff grading their own co-workers' homework, essentially. So they're going to be favorable to the local FEMA representation. So that's why in the process, as part of the Stafford Act, you get a second appeal that goes outside of the region. It goes up to headquarters in Washington for a more impartial review. That's the logic.
Did we already submit that? Because I don't remember voting on submitting that. So we didn't
We did.
on the second appeal? You sent it, but we didn't vote on it, so we need to get that on the next agenda. Because I didn't realize.
What was the?
It's the 75,000, you're talking
That's
about
right.
debris for the commercial
That's
area?
right.
Yeah, no, we didn't. So we got rejected when?
That, we got rejected around April-ish.
Yeah, we need to add that to apply for the appeal.
So,
The-
but that has gone off to headquarters.
Okay,
Well, sorry. When we vote on when we vote to appeal, it seems like the appeal process may have a one or two step. I don't see why we would have to.
it's a different appeal, totally different process when you go back and reappeal. It's a whole different submittal. And they're gonna want it?
You know, that's y'all's decision.
Mm-hmm.
We can't change the argument from the first appeal. Our
Oh,
appeal had
okay.
to be the exact same
Mhm.
format. And I think that was the logic. It's literally the same submittal.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do.
So as far as Hurricane Ida is concerned, the city's been reimbursed $112,000 so far. We still have another $22,000 left to get out of MEMA's hands. That money's already been approved by FEMA. We're waiting again on MEMA to release the delta of about $22,000, and our cost in the amount of $7,500 are going to be also reimbursed back to the city at 100% federal share. The HMGP projects, the generator and the light tower, and the siren system are in FEMA final review, so we should know something on those within the next 60 to 90 days as far as a
Excellent.
project award. So I know that's a big item
Oh,
for
it's a
you, Mayor.
biggie.
We also had MEMA reach out to us on April 28th for some notice of intents. And these are just, they reshuffled the deck. They had to have the paperwork that we had already submitted prior to for just different, it's for the city being able to expend mitigation dollars. And it's essentially placeholder projects that we had already submitted 6 months ago. So we just have to reshuffle the deck, get them back to them. But it's for localized drainage projects and residential mitigation activities for personal property. The last thing before the SWIFT update is the community rating system. We are going to be having a meeting this week with Ron and the administration, and we will be finalizing our draft document into a finalized document to submit to the community rating system program in Jackson, Mississippi. And we anticipate, at a bare minimum, the city would enter as a Class 9, which would trigger a 5% insurance reduction for all residents within the city of Diamond Head, whether or not you live in a special flood hazard area or not. It'd be a 5% reduction on your flood insurance premiums, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up for everybody that is either in or out of a special flood hazard area or a flood zone.
It is a lot with the new premiums a lot of residents have
That's
received.
a great point. They're only
And
gonna
I'm getting
continue to
emails.
go.
When is it gonna be finished? So how much longer do we project for you to have it finished?
We will be done this week.
Okay.
And submit it off. We do have to meet with the administration one
Mm-hmm.
final time, and then everything gets packaged up and submitted to Jackson.
Okay.
That's great news.
Mm-hmm.
So SWIFT, the reason I was here. So the SWIFT program, so it is a congressionally allocated pot of money that was earmarked to 4 states, Mississippi being one of them. Mississippi got earmarked $5 million statewide, which doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot. But it is for severe repetitive loss and repetitive loss property or substantially damaged property within, a local county. The city is able to apply on its own. The city does have a meeting with the state and with the FEMA consultant, not us, but it's somebody that actually represents FEMA. Okay, they have a consultant too. And they are actually going to be the ones putting together the application. That's the action item y'all are going to have later in the agenda. But it essentially gives homeowners who are eligible under the parameters and guidelines of the program an opportunity to elevate their homes, to not flood continuously, or to demolish and rebuild their homes. There's a cap of $150,000 on the demolish rebuild, which I think we all know nobody's building a $150,000 home, including demolition. So elevation would seem like the logical step, or an acquisition. Those would really be the two, from my professional opinion, the two viable options for the city. But if you are designated as a severe repetitive loss property, you would be eligible for 100% federal share for the activity to elevate or acquisition, which would be a fair market appraised value. If you're a repetitive loss property, it would be 90% federal, 10% local or the homeowner responsibility. And then if you're only substantially damaged by the city, they would be eligible for 75% federal share, 25% local, which doesn't really sound appealing unless you've flooded a lot like I have. So those are the eligibility parameters. The application would be due to the state by July 1st. And again, this is something that the city administration is going to be, I will participate. We don't need I'm not billing this time to the city. It's just professional courtesy, I feel, to participate in the phone call, just to make sure MEMA, as we've come to find all too well, to make sure they're giving the right advice, the right programmatic advice to the city, make sure they don't go astray. So I will participate in the call later this week, but the FEMA's consultant and the state of Mississippi officials will be putting together the application. Once if that is decided to go forward, an outreach would be done, which I would participate in the outreach for the homeowners to explain the program. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of questions, a lot of financial concerns, more than to get into tonight, but there would definitely be an outreach, and an application would be submitted before July 1st to MEMA. So that is essentially the overview of what SWIFT is.
The residents would have to have their individual application submitted before July 1st of this.
It can be done,
Oh, wow.
but it's a lot. This is a late in the game kind of thing.
It's late in the game.
But not the city's fault.
No.
It's just how the program rolled out. There will be another chance for nationally competitive pot of money for the same type of program, late November, December timeframe. So that would give a little more interest, same eligibility parameters. But this, if you have homeowners that are really interested in wanting to be elevated or acquired, this is a great shot, and the state has $5 million to put towards it. It is not cost that the city incurs as far as the match is concerned. This is something that is passed through. You're essentially applying on behalf of the homeowner. Y'all are essentially the pass-through. It has to run through, the homeowner can't submit to the state. It has to run through the local jurisdiction.
Can you also just comment on, the homeowners have received letters about the SWIFT programs that have been repetitive loss. Can you just comment on
Yeah.
that? Who would have maybe received that already?
So like I was telling you, the eligibility parameters for what classifies a property as severe repetitive loss or repetitive loss. Severe repetitive loss is, and these homeowners would have received a letter from the state. If a severe repetitive loss is 4 or more losses, flood losses, building and contents combined, in excess of $5,000 each, okay, for a cumulative payout of $20,000. And a repetitive loss property is 2 or more losses that equal or exceed 25% of the fair market value of the structure. And then a substantial damage, which is a 75% cost share eligibility parameter, is if the city deems you substantially damaged after a storm.
Is there a historical data limit, or can you go back historically?
It goes back to 1978,
Ooh, okay.
when the NFIP program was installed.
I believe also the requirement is they have to currently have flood insurance.
And they have to have flood insurance before the application, the date that the application period opened, which is April-ish. They have to have had flood insurance prior to the application or notice of funding availability. So if they do not have flood insurance now, they are not eligible for SWIFT, but they would be for a hazard mitigation grant program, which is one of the placeholder projects that we've had on file with MEMA now since about 6 months ago.
Excellent. Okay, any questions to my left? Any questions to my right?
Yes. Okay, so does this have to be their primary residence?
Yes,
Okay.
primary, for SWIFT, not for
SWIFT.
hazard mitigation
For
grant
SWIFT.
program. Good
Okay, so
question.
it taps out at 150,000 for demolition and rebuild,
Only
right?
that program,
Only
yes.
that program, but
That's
if
right.
we're paying market value,
For
or no, I mean, you know,
acquisitions.
so if somebody's house is worth $700,000, I mean, 5 million's not gonna go very far, I was just curious.
I know, I would say the city
I mean, because the
potentially-
values
it's a
are
good
very,
point.
very, I mean, they're historically high. And I mean, I'm not
Oh,
against it, I'm just
Totally agree. I don't
curious how far
suspect
it's gonna go.
That's a great point, and I don't think the city of Diamond Head, relative to, other parts of the state, are gonna see more than, if you had 10 properties that would participate, I think that's about the cap for all the jurisdictions in the state of Mississippi. Your bigger bang for your buck, in my opinion, I think pursue it, professionally pursue any and all funding, especially when the state and FEMA are doing the work for you for no cost to the
Right.
city.
Oh, sure, I just
But
didn't know.
I agree. So, the mitigation reconstruction activity caps out at 150,000.
Right.
And the elevation, is no cap, but it has
Oh.
to be cost effective. So a benefit cost analysis would have to be done by the state and FEMA. And then for an acquisition, it's fair market value.
Wow.
Whatever, but again, it has to all be cost beneficial. So there's different thresholds of what's beneficial. FEMA's not gonna buy out $1 million home that's had one loss.
Well, that's why I was
That's right.
confused, so, okay, thank you.
Great points.
I think we know the homes that are repetitive. But the HMGP is it's a very good project, because
More
if you live in a
flexibility.
flood zone now and you're below the BFE and a storm comes and you're 75% or greater, you got a situation. But
know,
if you raise it, if it's doable,
I'm a big proponent of utilizing hazard mitigation dollars for, not the, competitive pot of money. Hazard mitigation dollars is get earmarked. The
Right.
state earmarks dollars to you to fund however you deem necessary. And that just provides way more flexibility for the homeowners.
And so theoretically, the people who qualify for this do know about it right now? So they know, they're kind of on notice that they're gonna have to get everything submitted by July 1st?
When we
Is that
did the
right?
webinar about a week ago,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
mean,
but
everything was
they-
very fast.
Okay,
They told us that letters were mailed to these homeowners.
okay,
So
Okay.
I've, of course, sent a little question to them saying, can you get us a list of those, who received those letters?
I just would hate for somebody to say, well, I didn't know about it, and,
So, and the city does have a severe repetitive loss and repetitive loss data set, okay? And I want to say it's about 25-ish properties. Those on the call this week with FEMA and MEMA and myself, that is a question we will ask if nobody's contacted the city yet, the administration yet, based on, or any of you, based on the letter they received, there's an additional outreach that can be done this week and next week targeting, you only want to target the properties that are on that list because those are the only ones that are eligible. So it can take a lot of legwork out.
I would also just remind y'all from the presentation that Ben did in Sub-Basin A in particular, several of the houses, based on the current base floor elevation compared to what FEMA's new base floor elevation of 17 feet is, and there was a variance in several houses there. So, I mean, again, I look at this program as a potential opportunity for those residents.
all
Complicated
right.
stuff.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank y'all.
Next, we have Pearl River Community College here to talk about the new Stennis campus and the CTAP program. Adam? Angie, you're not coming up? Not to put you on the spot, and congratulations on your win.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. We also appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you here this evening to talk about two things. Number one, our new campus in Hancock County, something we're very excited about. They'll be located out at the Port Harbor Commission, just there adjacent to Hancock High School, which is the county's largest high school. Gives us tremendous opportunity for dual enrollment. The campus will have not only aviation and aerospace and industry partnerships to address their needs, it'll also have a full array of curriculum dealing with our CTE programs, which are career and technical programs, also all the academic classes that can get a student on track to either transfer to a university or enter the workforce. We'll also have a full nursing program. So a lot of wonderful things happening. This has been a 5 or 6 year project. We have been frustrated at times with the pace of play. For many of those who know me, and especially Angie, I'm not very patient, but I have to tell you, I think it'll be well worth the wait for us. I think it is going to be a tremendous opportunity for all of not only Hancock County residents, but I believe it can be an economic engine for the entire southern part of the state. I know we have certain programs that'll be offered here on this campus are not offered anywhere else along the entire Mississippi Gulf Coast, and in some scenarios, nowhere around the state of Mississippi, and also even in the southeast region. So we have an opportunity to really get a leg up, and we're excited about that. The college in general, I think some things that we're certainly proud of, and we hope you share our enthusiasm about. Pearl River Community College is currently Mississippi's fastest growing community college. Around the state, enrollment is down. As you look at all the trends, demographics and breakdowns, less students are going to college, and so around the state there's been about an 8 to 9% decline in enrollment. Pearl River Community College is up nearly 7% in the last 5 years. We have had unprecedented growth, and that's for a variety of reasons. The things that we try to do is we try to remain affordable is number one. We also try to remain efficient to best utilize our resources, and we also try to remain accessible to our students. And that's offering all of our programs in a wide variety of ways, whether that be online education, whether that be hybrid education, whether that be face-to-face coursework. And so one thing that we are solely committed to is doing everything we can to alleviate the challenges and the obstacles that would normally impede higher education. And one thing that we have in front of you tonight is our county tuition assistance program. Now, Pearl River has given nearly $6.5 million annually over the last few years to student scholarships. We believe it's the most important factor, affordability is the most important factor in a student having an opportunity to go to college. And if we're going to talk about our communities, we're going to talk about the opportunity for economic development, it starts with higher education. We're going to have, as I mentioned, a full comprehensive center that's going to be within 10 minutes of here, and an opportunity for anybody who would like to go over there and grab higher education and use that to grow our local economy. We have students right now, industry makes them sign a long-term commitment when they decide if they're going to come on board with that industry. And we know that a lot of our students are being hired even before they graduate. So to remain affordable, unlike many institutions that are going up 9 to 10%, really on average about 7 to 8% tuition annually, Pearl River Community College has not raised tuition since July 1, 2017. And that's the day that I was blessed and honored to become president of Pearl River. But we have done a lot of things. We have increased revenue. We have been able to retain our faculty and staff. But we said to do all those things, we're not going to put it on the backs of our students. We're going to try to remain affordable. And so we've remained at $1,625 tuition. And so what we're coming to you with tonight is for very little money. And it's not so much about the dollar amount as much as it is about the partnership and the unity in our voice to be able to offer higher educational opportunities for the people from Diamond Head. And so what we're asking tonight is to help support us with our tuition assistance program. This has worked in Forest County. This has also worked at the city of Hattiesburg. You can look at some numbers there. I mean, for as little as $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and I'm not even asking you for that. I'm not even asking you to make that commitment right now. We could stand up, and when I say we, I mean you as a council and us as an institution, and say we're going to offer higher educational opportunities for everybody that lives here. If you want to go to college, there's no excuse why you can't. I pay $256.78 a month in student loans. I will pay that long after I'm retired. And so we know that it is challenging. Now, do I believe that maybe I make $256.78 more if I wouldn't have had an opportunity for college? I do believe that. But for as little, you can see on some of those figures, for $500 or $600, it not only creates an opportunity for a student to come to college, but also for us to retain that student so they can stay in college. And so you'll see those figures there. And so we would ask for your support, and we can go over all the details. And we're not asking you to do anything that we won't do. We're bringing money to the table with this for your for your constituents, and we'd ask your help in doing the same. So, Mike.
Adam, can you just talk a little about what Port Harbor has done to kick this program off in Hancock County?
Yes, sir. I would be happy to do so. So Port Harbor has set aside $60,000 a year, which is a really great commitment. And with that, they are offering this county tuition assistance, or what they call tuition assistance program. And what it does, let's say that our tuition is $16.25. If we offer an ACT scholarship, and the ACT scholarship is half of that, then the CTAP program would fill in that other $800 for that student to come to school. But with all the scholarships that we offer through our foundation, through our service scholarships, and all the other institutional scholarships, most of the students that we're talking about owe about $300 or $400, and that $300 or $400 could fill in the gap to get their tuition paid. This does not cover their books, doesn't cover their room and board. We're going to ask students to have skin in the game. But I do think more importantly, it's the opportunity as people are sitting around their table and deciding what they're going to do about higher education, that they consider Pearl River, that we need those students to stay here in Diamond Head. We need those students to stay in Hancock County. Right now, a lot of our leakage is probably heading over to Harrison County, maybe to the community college over there. I forget the name of it. But heading over there, and they're probably buying gas, and they're going through drive-throughs, and they're stopping at stores, and so they're serving as an economic engine, and we believe we can do that right here with your support.
Adam, can you just also comment, again, you've handed out some numbers to the council. In the first year of total spend, it appears to be about $49,000 of the 60. And then again, you got another 60 coming for year 2 from Port Harbor. 53 students appear, if I got the numbers right.
That would be correct. Those are the
Of
students
that-
who were impacted. Now, the difference is this year we've been blessed with a lot of our CARES Act funds, and so we took a lot of those funds and gave them directly to our students. So could that number potentially grow? Sure, as we get our new campus, it could potentially grow as well. But those numbers are for this year.
And so you have highlighted in here a number of kids from Diamond Head
Yes,
that benefited from that program last year,
yes,
totaling about $7,345 over the 2 semesters.
correct.
I just want to make sure the council, we're talking about Diamond Head residents.
Yes,
And also that the funds that you're talking about are really the last resort. You're hitting every other pot of money first.
they are,
It's kind of that last push. you know.
sure, it's the
So
last
again,
dollars on their account. They're required.
We met about 2 weeks ago, so.
Yeah,
I've got-
right.
I've got-
Appreciate that. But they are required to do several things before we would award this money. They're required to fill out a FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid. They're also required to fill out any other institutional scholarship application, our foundation scholarships, and our service scholarships. They're required to fill all that information out. We put that money on first. Your money is the last money on. So food for thought, just planting a seed tonight because we'll be back. But we thank you for what you do. We thank you for your support. And we certainly are excited about being your partner and neighbor here in Hancock County in the future.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Miss Tony Gray with Diamond Head SPCA.
She's asked to be here in 2 weeks.
Okay, we will scratch her off. Next, we have a presentation on the GO bonds for street paving and other improvements, and we're going to start out with the city manager doing the first part of the presentation.
So about 2 or 3 meetings ago, I believe it was Chuck asked me, hey, what are we doing? How are we planning for Diamond Head Drive, the loop? If you look at that, it's really 4 lanes of paving and about 7 miles each. So it's significant. Some ports, especially Diamond Head Drive East and parts of North, are in worse condition than others, but it's a significant investment to try to get done. At the same time, we're trying to make sure we hit some other streets at the same time. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, and kind of using a PowerPoint to talk through that, like how can we achieve this objective? We've done a good job in the last, I guess we're on street paving phase 4, which I'll show in a little bit, but we've done 4 paving projects thus far, or again, the 4th is in the works. We've hit Capilama. We've got most of Golf Club. There's a section of Golf Club that's still waiting because I'm aware that there's a water project coming up, so I've pushed that towards phase 5. And if we look at Jex, Bayou, and the loop, we would basically have almost all of our major connector roads have been overlaid. The question is, how do we afford it? How do we pay for it without kind of stopping the progress we're making on all the other residential streets? So again, big things are happening. The council has made a commitment since 2018 on street paving. One of the other things that came out of our comprehensive plan was just really looking at the master plan for multimodal facilities, which is not just street paving and making sure the cars can go, but looking at bike lanes, nature trails, how do you get around in various modals besides just the vehicle. So street paving so far, since we did the study in 2018, phase 1 we did 7.6 miles, phase 2 4.1 miles, phase 3 3.4 miles, phase 4 3.7 for a total of right under 19 miles of paving. I know that map is hard to see, but the black is all the streets that have been touched and improved. We also are using what's called a PACER scale. So in 2018, we had all of our streets surveyed by a professional engineer. They videotaped and rated every street based on this national rating system called PACER. It goes 1 through 10. 1 is in deplorable condition, 10 is in mint condition, and then obviously 5 and 6 are kind of average. So we've been using that tool, those colors on the screen, to kind of guide us to be looking, how do we go attack the worst streets first, and also within a budget. So far, if you look at the cost of paving, we've spent just under $3 million, including what's about to be done with phase 4 that's currently bidding. Okay, so we've spent y'all have made a significant investment in these projects. So the question again is, if we look at the loop and JEX and Bayou Drive by itself, now we have the north part of Bayou Drive included in phase 4. But basically the power lines south are not, and that's almost a mile. It's just under a mile. So we're talking about 16 miles or so. So this kind of gives you a map of the blue is what we're kind of talking about that we would like to try to improve. The purple color is what's included at the north is part of phase 4, which is bidding right now and will get done. And then Noma Drive, which if anybody's going past Noma Circle out to the athletic fields, is in deplorable condition. It was I think rated 1 on the scale. We're constantly kind of putting down rock, especially if you're bringing kids to the athletic fields. We have a Gulf Coast Restoration Fund grant for that project. That's about a $1.2 million deal. It also adds a multimodal lane to the side of it. But that is also will be in the works and funded. Part of our Orion plan with Envision Diamond Head talked about creating a protected bike lane around the loop as well as on JEX. So that's where people are exercising. So that's the greatest risk, obviously, as well. But that would be, again, something Orion has basically almost finished designing for us. We moved it from a kind of a multimodal lane to a protected bike lane to reduce the cost. The other piece, that's kind of just showing you what the original design looks like for that protected bike lane. It's basically putting, I call them turtles, for lack of a better word. They're about 3 inches tall, 6 inches wide, placed every basically 5 feet, so it's like a low speed bump. And that's kind of, again, just a picture of the design of it. The other part that we hired Orion for was to create a gateway master plan. And part of that gateway master plan included Exit 16 as well as JEX. Where again, we've got funding from the original circle in Diamond Head, right there by Burger King and the Shell, to go west. That's Gulf Coast Restoration Fund. So we should be able to, again, put the gateway stuff, the landscaping, the decorative street lights, pavers, as part of that project. Hoping to be getting notification on West Aloha, which is a grant we applied for, to have that project included and funded. But looking at JEX going north, we don't. And so as MDOT goes to do their major project of Exit 16, we'd like to be able to be in a position when that's done to really come in with the landscaping. The MDOT doesn't do any landscaping. They don't budget for that. So they will leave it pretty much bare. So if we can, depending on funding and things like that, if we can afford it, we'd like to have that pot sitting there so we can attack it, implement the master plan so that our exit is beautified when that work is done. This just gives you an example of one of the sheets for Diamond Head Circle, which is out here by the community center. And again, it tells you what plant is planted where, what's it look like, and the same thing as we look at JEX. So the project basically we're talking about is the 16 miles of paving, the protected bike lanes, and the master gateway plan for JEX in the circle. Estimated from our engineers at about 5.8. Okay. This just kind of breaks it down from an engineering estimate cost sheet. Nancy, you're probably familiar with looking at these to tell you how it comes back to that 5.8, how they gave us that number. Okay. So how can we pay for the project? So the Mississippi Infrastructure Bill. This was introduced a few years back by our state legislature, basically taxing internet sales and then sending the sales tax diversion back to the city when people buy online. Everybody's seeing the Amazon boxes all over the place. So we have exceeded our projection and what is being shipped within our city, which is good news for us. So those dollars, according to the state legislature, have to be spent on infrastructure. So roads, bridge, drainage, other public infrastructure needs. They can't be spent on anything else, and you have to continue spending at your current levels on your general fund. So you can't like just take this money and swap it type of thing. So there's some formula calculations that have those requirements. Again, they must be spent on infrastructure. For us, we basically have 2 bridges in town. Our bridges are overall in good condition compared to some of the other bridges throughout the community. We are personally not responsible for obviously water sewer infrastructure. We have the drainage, but we've got basically about $8 million in other sources for drainage, which really leaves us back to the roads. And that's kind of where we've kind of been deploying it in our budget. Some of the other cities are taking those funds and basically leveraging them. And that's what I bring to y'all kind of tonight to consider is can we leverage those dollars and use them so we can get the project done today, meaning this year type of thing, and pay for it over time with the projected revenues from the infrastructure bill. So if we look, and I thank John, our comptroller, for his math, but if we kind of look at where we are, we're anticipating we get about $390,000 this year, which is about $150,000 over what we budgeted and projected going in. Next year will be the 4th year of a 25% bump, the final increase. And then after that, it plateaus out and just steadily increases based on, we call it inflation. So we just kind of used a 3% growth model there. But you can see after the 25%, we're right at about $500,000 in new revenue to the city. And then it'll continue to climb based on that 3%, but 500 is kind of what we're talking about. So again, it kind of leads to, can we use what's called a general obligation or GO bond to do the project, or a part of the project at least, using the infrastructure bill funds to help pay for that, and with council direction, looking somewhere and guidance from our advisors over a 10 to 15 year term. And the most important part is because we're using the infrastructure bill, this is not talking about any kind of tax increase on our residents. So we're able to do a $4.5 million reduction, I think, in FY21. So we're not talking about trying to put any of that back or any type of tax increase on residents. We're talking about just really utilizing this new stream of income like other cities are doing to get this very large project completed. I'd like to introduce Jason Thomas. We've got some of our advisors here. That Troy is also here. And so, Jason, if you can just kind of comment a little bit on and educate, I'm going to call it, myself included, on Go Bonds.
Okay, once again, I'm Jason Thomas, Municipal Advisors of Mississippi. And as Michael indicated, we've looked at this a couple of different ways, and the plan in every discussion with him has been to use your use tax revenue for debt service. The type of debt itself is a general obligation bond. That's because Mississippi statutes don't currently permit you to do a revenue bond pledging just this source of revenue. So it's issued as a general obligation, which does pledge your taxing authority should you ever need it to repayment of the bonds. But you do not have to levy a tax for debt service on these bonds to the extent you have other funds available for debt service. And that's what these use tax revenues would be for. And what we envision is going through the Mississippi Development Bank. As y'all know, Diamond Head's never issued bonds. The only really largest debt that Diamond Head has done since it became a city was the lease purchase obligation that bought this city hall, which, by the way, I financed when I was at Hancock. So here I am again. So going through the Development Bank is a known issuer in municipal markets. They exist to help cities and counties and school districts issue debt. And going through that, there is a two-step process. You induce the bonds, which is where you make application, and then there's credit approval and full board approval, which is the next meeting. Troy and I take care of the application, and I take care of the credit approval in front of their credit committee, and then we both work together to have the bank approve issuing the bonds. As far as the sizing of this, my projections, and Michael's may be a little bit different, is as far as once you get a 25% increase next year, that should put you around $486,000 or so a year. Is that about right? Now, that presumes no growth. There could be growth. I mean, and there's been exponential growth in these revenues. People aren't going back to not shopping online. It's just too convenient for them. My kids, I don't even think they know how to go to the store anymore. They order everything. But looking at what you could get for that, and originally, and I'm going to start out with the 550 and then go to the 500. He had asked me to look at what debt service not to exceed $550,000 per year might look like in the current market. And together with Cruz and Associates, the underwriter, who Lucian Bourgeois is here representing them tonight, kind of looked at what some current rates might be and projected future rates for when this might get funded. And I'll tell you, the interest rate market is very volatile right now. Treasuries have been going up, and muni rates have been going up too, but they've kind of reversed a little bit over the last few weeks and gone down. There's just a lot of chatter in the market. So as I read these numbers, just be advised that they could change fairly dramatically by the time we get to where they're actually priced and the bonds are sold, either through what's called a public offering, where Cruz would go to the market and take orders on the bonds, and that would determine what the bonds were priced at, what the money y'all got, and the interest rate y'all would get. Another way is private placement, and they will look at that too. That's where you place it with a local bank or banks, and I say local meaning statewide. But even that, the most recent one I have that was placed for a Gulf Coast city, it was a banker for J.P. Morgan and Chase out of San Antonio that won it. So they can be marketed a little bit more widely than that. But for 15 years, $550,000 a year debt service, that would actually currently bring in a little bit more than your projected authorized issuing. That would be about 6.1, almost $6.2 million. Same $550,000 a year for 12 years. That'd be 5.2, a little between 5.2 and 5.3 million dollars. On the 10-year, same 550 a year, be $4.56 million. Michael had also asked me to take a look at, say, debt service number not to exceed $500,000 a year. So I did that as well, and using those same 15, 12, and 10-year buckets. The 15-year, approximately $5.6 million. The 12-year, approximately $4.8 million, and the 10-year, approximately $4.1. Now, generally, when you do paving projects, and this is more of a question really for Troy as a bond attorney than me, but I'll touch on it. When you do any kind of public projects with tax-exempt bond proceeds, you're not supposed to go beyond the useful life of that improvement. So, and paving is different than, say, this building or a bridge. It depends on the type of paving projects you're doing. They are not all created equal. But Troy can speak to more as to which of these terms would be more appropriate when he gets up here. Trying to think about anything else. Oh, the timing of this, and Troy wants to talk a little bit for him too. Going through the development bank, that's usually about a 2-month process. We might be able to shorten it up a little bit. But during that same time, Troy would also be working the documents. Cruz would be underwriting, credit underwriting the bonds. And once we got approval from the development bank, we would sell the bonds either through a public offering or a private placement, like I said, and ultimately close, validate, and issue the bonds. All of that, if we started right here today, you're talking really a 60 to 90-day process before you'd actually have the money. Trying to think if there's anything else I needed to touch on. Don't think so. Michael, anything else or questions, anybody?
No, just want either yourself or to Troy, just make sure, I'd just like to reiterate the items on the agenda. You know, what are we
Yes.
asking the council to do tonight?
Sure.
What does it obligate the council to?
No, and I'll,
Just
yeah,
again-
we are asking that you go ahead and formally engage us. My company, Municipal Advisors Mississippi, which, by the way, in case you don't know, is a subsidiary of the Southern Mississippi Planning and Development District, as municipal advisors or financial advisors for the issuance of these bonds. Butler Snow, Troy as bond counsel, and Cruz and Associates as the underwriter or placement agent, such as their role might be once we decide how to issue these bonds. Is that a resolution? Yours is a resolution of intent, or? Yeah, you talk about that one, and then I'll come back.
I had one question. So we talked about the landscaping
Mhm.
on exit 16,
Mhm.
and I started working on exit 16 in 2014. We're in 2022. Even though we see progress, we know it's coming. You know, we know that they started working on it. The acquisitions are secured. We know they have the plans ready for the relocation of utilities. But the landscaping, because they're coming in with an island from the roundabout all
Mhm.
the way to the next island. And they want it concrete, which is not going to happen. We want landscape, beautiful island. So when do the funds have to be expensed by? From the day that we get them? How many years do we have?
It's 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Substantially, all of them have to be spent within 3 years.
So
And that
it-
is something that the Troys of the world are watching more closely now.
Oh, okay.
Making sure they get spent because, you know, he's
Mhm.
writing a tax opinion, and that's one of the things you promise to do when you issue these tax-exempt bonds. Did I answer your question?
That answered it.
Okay. You maybe didn't like it, but it answered it.
No, I was like 15, 12, whatever the length of the bond is, but that's okay. And they should be spent before that. I have seen, and I have worked for entities that did not spend them in that length of time.
I can tell you some stories, and I'm sure Troy and
I'm
Lucy
sure I
could
could, too.
You probably could match me story for story. Since Michael brought up the expenses and when a commitment actually becomes binding upon the council, nothing that we are being asked to do here tonight obligates you to ever do anything further. You don't undertake a binding commitment or do a binding commitment until you sign the bond purchase agreement, which takes place either once we place the bonds or we do that public offering. That's the point when the city is on the hook. And all of us involved in this transaction, we don't get paid unless you close a transaction. So if for some reason y'all decide not to issue these bonds, even if you've hired us, we don't get paid. We only get paid out of the proceeds from that obligation when it is issued.
All right.
Did you say, and you touched on real quick, maybe I misunderstood, like say we're gonna pay it back in 10 years?
Mhm.
Are you saying that the road would have to last for 10 years?
The general
Is that
idea
what-
is that you don't do it, no, it's not that it definitely has to last for 10 years, but all types of improvements have an expected useful life, and you're not supposed to go beyond that expected useful life of whatever that improvement is.
It's basically the same concept as borrowing money for a car. You're not gonna borrow money 20 years for a car because it's not gonna last, but I guess 10 years.
So just comment on that. For road paving, you know, generally you think of asphalt, you know, again, Nancy, you might be able to speak to this better than me, but about 15 years. You know, I'm trying to think, I think we've had a conversation on when's the last time we saw Diamond Head Drive paved, except in little small sections. We also know number counts, because we had GRPC count cars for us. So around Diamond Head Drive East towards Lanai, you got about 800 cars a day. Out off of Diamond Head Drive North, in the kind of, I'm gonna call it the northwest quadrant, you're about 700. Parts on Diamond Head Drive East, from Kalani to, if you're heading towards the east, in the 2,500 plus. So when you start talking about wear and tear on those, you know, we have a lot of low traffic residential use compared to a high traffic interstate with 45,000 cars parking on it. And so my comment there is I think some of our roads will last longer than, because of just low, especially our residential.
And, you know, they've done, Jason and Mike have done a wonderful job, and they pretty much said everything I was going to say. I'm Troy Johnson. I'm with Butler Snow. I work in the public finance group there, and we appreciate the opportunity to work on this project. Really, there are about 2 or 3 things I want y'all to go away with on this, and then I'll explain the resolutions. The first thing is you're issuing general obligation bonds. What that means, again, is they're backed by the full faith and credit and taxes of the city. So in the end, if all the train jumps the tracks, y'all can put on taxes to pay the bonds, okay? The second thing is the Infrastructure Act, okay? That Infrastructure Act was passed in 2018, our Infrastructure Modernization Act of 2018, and to funnel use tax to cities and counties for roads and bridges, and cities get water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure, okay? Now, it's been pointed out to me that in one of these resolutions, we've put water and sewer in there as one of the, you can only use that use tax for those things, and I put roads and bridges and water and sewer. And I would, you know, there's been a concern that, hey, we got the water and sewer district here, we don't handle that stuff. Well, what I tell y'all, and we thought about this when I put it in there, unless y'all tell me something different, y'all got water and sewer under these roads, right? And if y'all, whatever kind of paving you do, y'all break that water and sewer, you're going to have to pay to fix that water and sewer. So I would recommend that it be explicitly in the resolution that you're authorized to use bond proceeds to fix that water and sewer. That takes all the guesswork out of it, okay? So when y'all call me, or when Derek calls and says, what do you think? And I'm going to just say, I wish we'd have put it in there, but is what I'm going to say. But no, I would recommend that you keep it in there. But the overall point is these bond proceeds are for roads and water and sewer. And with y'all, it's paving, okay? That's what it's for. You've got 2 resolutions tonight. And I don't know, I'll explain them now. So you've got one, like Jason said, that hires Butler Snow, hires Municipal Advisors of Mississippi, and it hires Cruz and Associates. The second resolution is a resolution of intent. It begins the process for the general obligation bonds. What that does is you're required to publish a resolution letting everybody know that you're going to issue bonds, because it is backed by taxes, for about a month in the paper, okay? And within that month, if you get a petition that has 10% or 1,500 qualified voters asking for a vote, then you have to go to a vote, okay, on the bond issue, if that made sense. The date in this case, in this resolution, is July 19th. Okay, so if you pass it tonight, we're going to start publishing it June the 24th, right, Gene? And because the dates were all kind of cattywampus on us. But we're going to start publishing June the 24th. I'll be back here July 19th, and we'll see what we move forward from there. It takes 60 to 90 days to issue bonds. We generally, if we're going through the development bank, generally we can get that, closer to 60. And y'all are on top of your minutes, in my experience, working with y'all, so that shouldn't be a big deal. Y'all are probably gonna be closer to 60. But that's what you're looking at. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, we appreciate it.
And the two resolutions do not obligate any funding with the city. It gets you all working, so you're able to get out there and shop it and see what we
That's
can
right.
find.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay. Any questions to my left? Any questions to my right? Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for coming. Thank you. Next, city manager's report.
I'll try to be long tonight. Kidding. Again, just talking about some of the agenda items to give some clarity. Tidelands grants, I'm asking for authorization to submit two FY24 Tidelands grant applications, which are due by the end of this month. These will be considered by the state legislature next spring when they're in regular session. Usually it's March, April. The first application is for a $100,000 planning grant for nature trails through the wetlands and a marine education center. The other grant is for $300,000 for dredging the waterways from the Jordan River to the new waterfront project at the end of Noma. There's a BCA agreement. This agreement is basically between the city and Barbecue Compliance Alliance to make our basically city's barbecue festival a sanctioned event. The goal there is to obviously bring more people, bring more teams, because it becomes a signature event. Work assignments with Machado. At our last meeting, I talked about really 7 new work assignments looking at our list of drainage projects. There are 4 with Machado looking kind of at the Hilo Way area to the southeast corner of the city. These are 4 projects that were identified in the Wagner Engineering report that we've all had identified. These are separate projects. Obviously, they're all listed by 3.24, 3.08, whatever is out there when you look at the list. This will allow our engineer to basically begin analyzing these drainage areas and to come back and make a recommendation with some cost estimates to improve the drainage in the project area. After this is done, we can decide at that point, do we want to let the engineer keep going with design and getting permitting started? One thing we're learning is it's taking about a year. I think if we think about Makiki is a good example. Hilo is another one. It takes about a year from when we start to actually getting to be able to break ground. A lot of the grant funds, again, we're in about $8 million of grant funds that we've been allocated or should be allocated from the state portion, that they have timelines. So the idea is to get this started. I will have several for the northeast corner, things that deal with Coon Branch with Compton Engineering on the next agenda. They asked to wait because they wanted to produce and show us what they've done for the first one to make sure they're headed in the right direction on Hannah Place and Anahula Place. So I just told them, I said, no problem, let's make sure your report is where you want it to be. And next agenda, I'll put a few more in front of you. There is an advertising to bid the project for dredging our 2 main detention ponds. Obviously, we've been working on this as a city, I think, for many, many years. That's been coming up.
Many years.
So we have received the permits, finally. We're talking about things that are known as Lily Pond on Diamond Head Drive North, as well as something known as Mill Pond off of kind of Diamond Head Drive East, just north of I-10. So again, we're asking to get that, start advertising for bids and bring that project underway. Main Street Association after authorization to submit an LLC certificate of formation for Diamond Head Main Street Association. This will establish a separate legal entity with its own board. Actually, it's completely separate from the city. It will be governed by its own board of directors, which will be made up of local business leaders. I use the reference of we're kind of using a top-down approach right now because we're trying to get it going. But Main Street Association is really a grassroots effort and it's supposed to be bottom-up. So trying to get it, I guess, started and formed, and then, kind of push it up to create a life of its own. Makiki Drainage, Pickering Engineer is recommending that the council accept the low bid of $138 from J&A Excavation to get started on the Makiki Drainage project. Again, this was an area we had at least one house that flooded a couple of times last year in those heavy
Two of
rain
them.
events.
Mm-hmm.
This will allow me to sign the contract and issue a notice to proceed. Subdivision regulations updated. Now that the city has worked on with two different developers for new subdivisions, the administration would like to work with Covington Engineer to update our ordinance based on several items that we feel that would be needed to protect the city, as well as to help the developers and give them more guidance. So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for the city manager to my left? Any to the right? I'm just gonna add, because we do have some engineering firms here. See y'all. Thank y'all for coming. But we've got about 1.5 million out in engineering projects, not counting the 4 that we put on today and the one for Jason for Kenichi. So that's 5 we added. That's a lot of money. A lot of money that we have tied up in engineering. And we're going to ask you all to please try to move a little quicker, because it is taking a year. Makiki, actually, Hilo Street was an emergency project, and it took 1 year to bid. So we need to work quicker, especially on the drainage, because it is such a big issue in Diamond Head, and the residents want it resolved. I guarantee I get 5 emails a week. I know people out there watching it right now. They know who they are. There's some sitting in here right now, and they want answers. They want resolutions, and they deserve it, and this is a lot of money. So I'm just going to plead with you all to please move quicker, especially on the drainage projects.
Can I just add one other comment that I failed to? We have installed 4 locations with stop signs that we had approved. Right now, they have bags over them, so they're kind of sitting out there, and we'll start promoting and advertising that to let residents know to expect that change. But that's Anahula Street at Alamona Street, Anahula Street at Kaloa Street, Kaloa Street at Henalo Place, and Kaylee Street at Kaloa Street. So I just kind of want to start pushing that out a little bit to residents. Right now, the
You're
signs
gonna
are up.
e-blast
There's
it?
we will,
Okay.
but there's black bags over them. So again, they're installed. We just kind of want to start now pushing out to residents. I'm going to use this opportunity as a broadcast.
3 with bags and 1 bag's off? Which one's off? Anahula? Oh, it's on Cola. Oh, the one at the bottom of the hill on Cola and Anahula. Okay. Yeah, we probably need to e-blast that, and it's going to take residents a minute to stop. Okay, no questions? All right, moving on to public comments, Mr. Jarrell Peligan. Is that the only one we have? Okay.
I'm Darrell Pellegrin. I live at 8912 Hanley Place, Diamond Head. We talk about drainage and drainage and drainage and drainage, and we're correcting to put things out for bid so guys can correct the drainage. I got some pictures of my video over here. All we did was create a problem at my house. And that guy behind me is flooded since they built this new house. Who signed off on that thing? You? Not a question and answer, I know. But somebody's got to be responsible for this. We never had drainage. I lived there for 16 years. It was vacant lot. And we never had drainage problem before. We got drainage problem now. Guarantee you. It's coming in my garage. Some of y'all came out and looked at it. Some of you didn't. The choice. But I knew we were going to have problems to start off with. And the building, ridiculous. He just looks at you, going about his way. They came out, Jones and came out to look on drainage on thing. They surveyed it. That lot has been surveyed more times than any lot in Diamond Head. More times. I even surveyed it myself. I got an instrument. But why? Why? Because you don't want to tell the builder they can't build? Or you can't build that high? It's ridiculous. Thank you.
So, and some of the councils knew, so in their defense, they don't know
Well-
what we're talking about right now. So can I brief them real quick?
Yeah.
And I know Councilman Clark knows all about this. It's his ward, so two of us are very versed. Councilman at large was there, and I'm not sure about Councilman Finley. So we've got three that don't, so let me
Right.
go over this, what happened. There was, on Hanley Place, there was a new build. It was a wooded lot. Everything was drained, and then we had a new build come in. And the new home cleared the lot, the developer cleared the lot, raised the house up higher than the other two lots on either
Much
side.
higher.
But Hanley Place is unique in the sense that it drains from Hanley Place all the way to Hanley Circle out to the big ditch. And we're talking a very big contour difference between Hanley Place and Hanley
From
Circle.
the
So
front
it
of the
just,
road to the back part of the property, got 8-foot elevation.
so the city hired an engineer to do a drainage design for the new build. So we hired and we paid as the city for a engineer to come out and do a drainage plan for the new build. And somehow between the new build getting built and getting a CO, he did not follow the drainage plan. Is that correct? Specifically, he didn't put in the catch basin, he didn't put in the discharge pipe. But he got a CO, so we've got, and it didn't even rain that much, and you've got video showing that it all, and his garage is like several feet lower than the new build, and his driveway goes down like that. But another problem, we received an email from Mr. Donald Escher, myself and Mike, and I did not respond yet, did you? Yesterday? Well, we both got it yesterday, but I need to respond to it. So it had that he flooded. So he flooded his carport, and he's never flooded. It all flooded his back patio. So this just happened with the new build. And it didn't rain that hard last week when all this happened.
Just a shower came through.
So we got a problem. We've identified the problem, so now we need a solution. And the solution would be, looking over to the left,
I would be happy to bring our engineer out there again, but, you know, that's when you said Escher. I mean, I met with Bob Escher day before yesterday, and I asked him, I said, hey, can you keep me posted on your dad? Because he's the engineer on Compton. He said, no problem. And I have not received an email that I'm aware of yet. You know, if you want to have Ron talk about a little bit through the process, you know, then I'm happy to, you know.
we both are on one with Donald Escher, and I assume, is that Mr. Escher that lives behind?
Yeah.
That's the daddy.
Invalid people.
They're very good people. Everybody's good people, but you don't want to have a home in Diamond Head and had it for 50 years and then one day wake up and you got water in your patio and in your house. It's not right, and that's not what we want. So we need to figure out what we're going to do to make this right. That's the question on the table.
I agree we have to figure out what's wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it the builder's responsibility to make sure that nothing changes for the neighbors when they're doing a build? Isn't that, Derek, on our law, that when somebody's building, it shouldn't adversely affect anybody else? So why are we paying for engineers instead of having the builder do this?
They have to get the water to the drainage easement. In many of our properties, our easements are blocked with fences, gardens, trees. So their responsibility, as I understand it, is to get the water to the easement.
Why did we pay for this developer's engineering plan and other developers have to pay for their own, is my question, like Gerard, councilman at large.
So we brought him in because our easement between Mr. Escher's house and the one to his, I'm going to call it south, has a lot of material, things that are blocking that drainage way. So if the developer puts the water to the 10-foot drainage easement, because on all properties we have 5-foot drainage easement, so that's a total of 10. but even my house, I mean, I know my fence is on my property line. So if we start putting water in that area, and there's trees and there's fences, I mean, we gotta start taking things down or put a pipe to collect it, those type of things.
Well, it would seem to me that you wouldn't want to approve building until that was taken care of.
That's right.
In other words, you wouldn't say build and then worry about what's going to be happening. If you
And
have a
that's-
problem with where the easement is,
Yeah.
you can't allow it to go forward
Exactly.
until they figure out a solution to that.
And that's not what happened in this instance. I mean, it was engineered twice, as I understand it, and there's a debate as to which engineering the builder even got. But the builder and the homeowner's job is to get the water to the easement. And, you know, when Ron looked at it, Bo looked at it, did the measurements, it met the first engineering's design, getting the water to the easement. That's the obligation for the builder.
Is that what the law says, that it's to get it to the easement, or that it's not to adversely affect anybody else's property?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't that be first and foremost before
Right.
granting any kind of building permit? Not that he has to get it to the easement, but that he has to make sure it is not going to adversely, and it shouldn't be the city to then retroly do it.
Right, but it is the city's job to maintain the easements, and if the easements are not maintained
is-
and cannot carry water, then
Then
that's.
we
It
shouldn't
is-
allow permitting until
No,
we get
and
that
you're right.
easement cleared.
We
I don't-
shouldn't allow the CO, because I specifically brought it to the building department's attention that the builder did not follow the engineer's plan. If I, as a
Which-
taxpayer, paid for the plan, by golly, I want it followed. And if I didn't, then give me the money back for the engineer.
Which
And
engineered
that's where
plan? There were two engineered plans, Mayor, and the
I
information
picked
that
one.
we've got
They didn't
from.
follow both, so let's
They
pick
followed the
one.
first one according to your building official, and that's his
Building official
job.
Being who?
Ron Jones is a building official.
Who's in charge of drainage?
Ron Jones is the building official, and he's the one that issues COs.
Who's in charge of drainage? Tell me.
That's Public Works.
So what can we do to resolve it? Because here's where we are today. Now, we realize we have identified the problem. The problem is 2 residents that have lived in their homes for many years are now flooding. And it wasn't even a big rain, now they're flooding with the new build. The builder got a CO, the new homeowners moved in on Friday, and they're all happy. And we've got people flooding, and it hadn't even started to rain yet. So what are we gonna do to fix this? This is where we are right now.
Again, Mr. Escher, for example, this is the first I'm hearing about that, and I spoke with his son literally day before yesterday in a meeting.
Okay, his son
But
does
I'll-
not live at the house, so let's leave Compton Engineering out of it.
I'm just-
Donald
Yeah.
did email you, and if my phone worked, I'd show it to you.
Okay, I don't remember seeing an email from him. I mean, but again, I don't mind going out there. I don't mind bringing Gerard with Machado back out there, you know, and finding a solution. Leaving water in Mr. Escher's or anybody else's yard is not acceptable. So, well, we'll go from
It's
there.
gotta be acceptable. It's coming in my yard now.
Okay, so when can we get out there and look at this again, and we're gonna have to pay the engineer again?
I'll call Gerard in the morning.
If we didn't build according to his plan, then the engineer, and I'm defending all of them sitting here, if we don't do what they tell us to do, then they're not liable. They're free, because they told us to do X and we chose B. So they're not liable. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know what you're gonna do.
But I think we do have to correct the drainage on yours, but I think going forward, we have to prevent this from happening for anybody else. And I think we have to look at, what do we do if the easements are blocked? Or do we allow the build and figure it out afterwards? Or do we stop the build until we figure out how to get the easement right? To me, it seems like you gotta have the easement in order for them to work the build. It can't be the other way around, because then you run into all sorts of
Flooding.
jerry-rigging
They
it to
never
make
had
it
any
work.
water
and-
staying on the lot. I can show you some pictures of the lot when it was raining, and the water's coming up, downspouts on both sides, coming up. My wife says it's gonna come in the yard, come over the driveways, come to my house.
And just because I'm new and I don't know, we have no recourse against these builders who just don't do what they're supposed to do? I mean, I'm just asking.
Boy, it's a good question.
I-
But
I mean,
Who's
Do
gonna
we?
provide some resources for
right,
y'all? Or you gonna sit there with your thumbs up?
well,
Mr. Jones is requested to speak.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Good evening, y'all. All righty. When this all started, Mr. Escher said that he had water on his back porch. Okay, and so the plan that Machado drew, that had the outfall of the water coming off of the Malley property, going directly in the middle of his backyard. That's what the plan said. And so in talking with Mr. Malley, he says that he never had received that drainage plan. And so then we were like, okay, what do we do? He was swearing he never received it. And so, anyway, we counseled with our city attorney. He said that gave direction in terms of go out and look at it and see if it meets the intent of generally what the engineer did. And that's what we did. We went out there and we took shots all around the drainage. And that what Mr. Malley did, he took it to the drainage easement. Okay, in the rear. He took it to the drainage easement. There was the front yard, the water goes to the front ditch, and then even the gutters that come down, say in the front, it goes down the slope, and then it goes to the back. So in terms of the swales that are around there, they are very similar to what Machado had. The berms, like in the berm in the back, at one point the berm was only 4 inches high, and so Bo and I, we measured the top of the berm and the bottom of it, and it was very, very similar. The slope going from the front to the rear, the engineer had a quarter of an inch slope, and then Mr. Malley had a 4 inches drop from the front to the back. Alrighty, and so that, in my opinion, Mr. Malley did what he's supposed to do with any builder. You take the water to an easement, whether it's to the front, to the ditch, or sides, or rear. Okay, and so that's what happened there. Okay, now that the swale between Escher and the other gentleman, that easement really needs to be worked on. But it's not Mr. Malley's responsibility because he can't work on the private property or in that drainage easement. He can't do it. And so one solution may be for us for the city to work on that drainage easement. You're going to have to take down a fence. You're going to have to cut some trees. And if that happens, and then there's a fence going down the middle of it too. So it necessarily won't be an easy fix if you take it to the easements. Now, in addressing about
I guess my question is, why did the developer not get the plan from the engineer after we paid for it? Where was the plan? I know I saw it.
And I think that's an important distinction here. There were two plans from the same firm. This
The
council
last
and,
plan that was stamped and said stamped plan
well, I
with
don't,
the drain inlet and you know, we are where we are right now. But when the engineer did the drainage plan, he looked at the entire area, what we need to do so that it doesn't run off on the neighbors behind or on side. We can't look at, well, the developer can just build right here, and sorry about you people living here for 50 years, paying your taxes for 50 years, we're gonna flood you. We can't look at it like that. We have to look at it like, where is the water gonna go? Now that this home came up, the impervious and pervious calculations are dynamically different. We're sending all this extra water off, and we're just telling these people, I'm sorry it's in your garage, and I'm sorry it's in your... We have to find a solution. So where we are right now is gonna have to hire another engineer. Now, Bowview, we're spending $150,000, and this is a very similar situation. Hilo Way, we're spending another $150,000. It's a similar situation. We're on number 3, but we're gonna spend what we need to help these residents, and I think everybody sitting up here is gonna agree with that, because this is a darn shame.
I agree. It doesn't matter how we got here. How we got here is completely.
It does, and we need to move on and fix it.
I would say, I think it matters greatly how we got here. We're talking about two engineered plans. The first one authorized by the building official, by the city, that was followed substantially. You have the building official saying it was followed substantially by the builder. In that instance, he has no choice but to issue the CO. And as he's told you, one of the main issues here is the easement itself does not have the capacity to let any water go down it because there's a fence, there's trees. But from discussions that I heard, Mr. Escher and his neighbor were insistent that trees were not coming down, fences were not getting moved. I mean, the city has an obligation to maintain its easements. David Malley could not go on that easement between Escher's property and his neighbor's property and do any work. Only the city can do that. So I think it does matter how we got here, and I think it's important how we got here. And the assertion somehow that the building official didn't care that water's getting on someone's driveway or in someone's garage that's not an assumption. It's not an assumption.
Okay, we're gonna have order. Here's where we are today, and this is how the council feels. We need to find a solution, and again, the taxpayers will have to pay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. We're finished discussion.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to any other comments for the city manager? Y'all good to the right? Good to the left? Moving right along. So, could I get a motion to approve the May 17th, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting minutes? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Cumberland. All in favor? Aye. Resolution 2022-198, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-037, thereby authorizing the employment of professionals Butler Snow LLP and Bond Counsel, Municipal Advisors of Mississippi, Inc. as advisor law firm, and Derek Cusick as city counsel, and Cruz and Associates and underwriters in connection with the sale and issuance of the general bond obligation to enter into a loan or loans with the Mississippi Development Bank and other related purposes. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Marr. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk.
Finley,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-199, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-038, thereby declaring intent to issue and sell general obligation bonds pursuant to the City Bond Act, or issue and sell the bond to the Mississippi Development Bank, either in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $6 million and for other related purposes. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-199, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-039, authorize application to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources FY24 Tidelands Fund in the amount of $100,000 for the planning grant for the Nature Trails and Education Center. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Cumberland. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
And one more note on that one, make sure we change the City of Biloxi to Diamond Head. Resolution 2022-200, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-040 to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources for the FY24 Tidelands funding in the amount of $300,000 for waterway restoration at Noma Drive Waterfront Project. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Cumberland. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-202, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-041 to acquire by donation certain real property from the Diamond Head Water and Sewer District located within the city right-of-way acquisition and roadway construction. Could I get a motion?
I'll move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-023, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-042, thereby abandoning a 5-foot drainage utility easement on each side of a common property line between lots 7 and 53, Diamond Head Phase 2, Unit 4A, Block 11, for the purpose of construction and accessory structure. The physical address is 9542 Lala Place. The parcel numbers are 067F-2-26-06.000 and 067F-2-26-006.000. Property owner Turner. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Cumberland. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-023, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-043, thereby appointing Ginger Cook, Ward 3, to serve as Planning and Zoning Commissioner to fill an unexpired term expiring March 2023. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? I have one question. This is to fill Rhubarb.
It's in the resolution. Yeah, I believe it is. Yes, Rhubarb, yes.
Okay, City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2022-0-204, motion to adopt Resolution 2022-044, thereby appointing Christy Nico, Ward 2, to serve as Planning and Zoning Commissioner to fill vacancy for 3-year term expiring March 2025. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Cumberland. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? And this fills what spot?
David Hector.
Yes.
Hector.
Hector. I couldn't think of his name.
All right, City Clerk?
Finley.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Could I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 10 through 27?
I'd like to have discussion on item 13.
Okay, can I get a motion to amend the agenda and move item 13, 2022-186 to the action agenda, and it will be 2022-028? Could I get a motion to move to amend agenda as stated?
I think he could just
You just hold it and then take
Just
it up
hold
after
it.
the consent. You don't need a motion to, remove it. Just
It's
hold
not
it.
on the, it's in the consent agenda. It needs to be,
held.
It can be held at the consent level. Just hold, and then after you take the roll call, then you can go back to that one.
and discuss it
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
consent
you can make a
agenda?
motion then at that point.
Okay, so we're gonna do items 10 through 12 and 14 through 27. Could I get a motion to move?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, number 13 still sitting in the consent agenda. So we're gonna talk about it.
You can make a motion to do whatever he wants to do with it at this point.
So I want to make a motion to talk about item number 13 on the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
It needs to be on the action. You can't discuss consent agenda.
Just make a motion to
Make a
move it to
motion
action.
to approve
Okay.
it. Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna,
Motion to
okay, so we're
move to
gonna.
action and approve.
I
For
move to
discussion.
move consent agenda item number 13, 2022-16 to the action agenda. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor?
Aye.
Now moving on to the action agenda. We're gonna bump that one up to 2022-008. Motion reads 2022-16, motion to accept the memorandum of agreement with MDOT for East Aloha Improvements Phase 2 and City Manager Russo to execute the same. Could I get a motion?
Move.
I don't know.
Do you want to discuss this?
Yeah, I'll wait until it's
Okay.
second.
We got a motion made by Cumberland. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. Discussion to my left. Councilman
Yeah,
Marr?
I'd just like to know, and Mike, you already know that I have that problem with the width of the street going in East Aloha. I just think it's too narrow, and Phase 1 is already done. We're going now to Phase 2, and despite what you say, I'm seeing citizens left and right, like stopping to like let the other car go. And I don't think that's the way of the future for a town center to have people pull over to let others go through. I think we need to make it 2 feet wider or something in order to allow for traffic to flow better in each way. I understand that the engineers say this happens all over. It's not happening in Diamond Head. For whatever reason, people are more skittish here, or there's a different perception with the turns or the curves or whatever. But I think it's a bad idea to continue with something that's going to, what I think, cause frustration amongst all our citizenry.
Gerard, where are you talking about it?
By Rouse's going forward with the road there, you see how narrow it is when people are going out
Talking
the
that
back
little
way?
section here?
They're pulling over for one another to get traffic to go the other way.
Were you
I-
talking
I-
towards the stop sign part?
Yeah, towards back, the
But they
back
got a
of
big hole over
Rouse's.
there that keep,
Yes, but they're also
fixing that.
doing it because of the narrowness of the street.
So,
I've seen it firsthand.
They haven't really
I've
done
had
too much back
3
there yet,
people.
though.
But
So
but the
here is-
curbs are in.
here is Councilman Marr's concern. Normal road widths and standard road widths are 12 feet wide, so we've got 24 feet. These are what, 11?
Yeah, 22 feet, I think.
They're 11, so we're missing 2 feet. So, and then we have parallel parking. So we've thrown parallel parking in for the first time, and then we've reduced the street width 2 feet. And that's a lot for people to take in. So maybe Phase 2 is to bring the jewelry on, the lights, the sidewalks, the landscaping. But maybe Phase 1 on the new business area, and this is something, Ben, you might want to look at. You know, we make them 12 and 12. Can we fit that in the right-of-way? Maybe
The main thing was they
Su-
were talking about to slow the traffic down going
On
through that
Kalani,
area.
on Kalani and West Aloha, would that be doable?
So a couple of comments. The agenda item is talking about the grant that we have from GRPC and MDOT to try to move that paperwork forward. Okay, that's what's on the agenda. I've exchanged multiple emails today with Gerard and purposely intended and asked Jason Kenichi, what is the width of Main Street in Bay St. Louis? 10 feet lanes. Ocean Springs, downtown Government Street, 10-foot lanes. These are 11-foot lanes intentionally designed this way to slow traffic down and to create a walkable environment, to create a Main Street environment that came out of the comprehensive plan that the council approved. The town center with all the streets designs, which all went through engineering for phase 1 and phase 2 to determine right-of-way acquisition for phase 1 and phase 2 of town center, as well as East Aloha. So when we start talking about redesign, grants have so many dollars available for engineering services, but we're talking about also time to go back and start over, which means I think you put some of your grants in jeopardy. But most importantly, I think the urban design that Ron Slade and Orion created was to create a walkable, meaningful downtown with a sense of place like you get in downtown Bay St. Louis and you get in downtown Ocean Springs. So is it confusing? Yeah, we've got construction everywhere and people are going through parking lots. Okay, will it get better? I believe that personally. You know, is it confusing right now? I think so. You know, we had to put up brand new signs to help direct people to Rouse's. You know, so, but the lane width of 11 feet in the downtown is greater than you see in Bay St. Louis and in Ocean Springs, that we all go and enjoy personally.
Mike,
And again, it was intentionally designed that way.
Does the final design have lines in the roads, painted lines?
They're going to have pavers for crosswalks. Striping down the middle, I'm not sure off the top of my head. Okay.
And I have to say, because of the extensions of the concrete barriers protecting the parking cars, is throwing off people that you don't have in Ocean Springs and in Bay St. Louis.
No, but you got it in
And-
downtown Gulfport.
But downtown Gulfport's a wider road where it is.
Not on
It's
these
one
side
way.
streets. No, on 40, when you look at 49, you've got a 2-lane, because Ben and I talked about this earlier, but when you start getting onto those side streets, they're tighter.
They're one
And they
way.
have the bulb outs that were all designed. If the council wants to take action, you can. I would just say, do it with caution, because it may be costly to us.
I just
Okay?
would
And
like to
again,
have.
Ben did talk to Ron Slade with Orion to kind of get some interpretation of
That's what I would like
reason.
to have, because I think when you have an idea, and then when you see people actually reacting to that idea,
In a
are two
construction
different
zone.
things. So imagination and engineering is hard facts, but then the people's feel of something is what they gotta live with day in and day out. And I think what they're missing as engineers is that we have a population that's used to something in a certain way, that they weren't brought up with it being, here it is, and now all of a sudden we're going to narrow it down and force you to like be this smaller place. You gotta go gradually. And I'm thinking if we had a foot more on each thing, we maybe have to make a half-foot smaller sidewalk on one side and a 1.5 feet on the other side to make it work or something without buying more right away. But I think we need to look and at least get Orion here to see what they think, since they're the ones that originally did this. When I said yes to the council plans to do this, I'm all in favor of the town look and all. I'm just not seeing what the engineers planned until it was actually put in concrete.
We can't hold them responsible for what
Ben-
you're seeing now. though,
No, that's what I'm saying is.
If you can't imagine it in your head, they can't do that for you. I'm just saying that. You know.
I understand, and that's what I'm saying, but it's not
and
just
again, I would
me.
really-
I'm
it's a
looking at the
construction site.
population that I said yes for, and that population is already starting to grumble to me.
I think I was
They grumble
tagged
to me
on
every
that
day.
post.
They grumble
But-
to you?
It's because of construction.
They grumble to me. But you know what, I think maybe, you know, phase 1 is done. We have what we have, and I think it's beautiful. You know, it's gonna be wonderful once we get Phase 2 done, and we have the landscaping, the crosswalks will be done in this, but we have the landscaping, the new street lights. It will pull it all together, but maybe when we're looking at Kalani and West Aloha, even when you do the grants, when you send in the cross-section, you can say, hey, this changed. We're 11.5 instead of 11, or 12 if we can fit it. You know, whatever you can fit without getting more acquisitions, make it a little wider, because we got the parallel, we've got delivery trucks. Chuck's got some big trucks coming in and out. We don't want accidental.
Again, the goal is to have a truck route that would be run behind the buildings, yeah, ideally.
And one
But
day
that's just
that
one of
may
those
happen.
phases, and again,
It is.
that's a good thing to say.
That's years
Mayor.
away, I'm sure, though.
It
It's probably
is,
years
so-
away, it's a different phase,
Years away.
but that's the goal.
I agree, we may need to look at a little bigger. And I did work on the city hall at Pasquishan. I did the civil on that, so go look, the roads are done that way too. And then I drive down it and I cuss myself out, you know, I'm like, this is too tight. Because you have to try to parallel park, and people are not used to that, and we need a little extra room to take the 4 times to get it in. So if we could just look at that. Any comments to my right?
None more than we just, you know, we hired a firm that builds these type of things all over the world. So it's a little late to be, you know, if we can make it 6 inches wider without slowing this project down 1 minute, I feel that's fine. But if it takes 2 minutes, I would say no.
It'd take a while.
Yeah, it's too late for this one, I think.
Most of the curbing does.
It's already done. Okay. So we have there was something I had on the LPA. We had the city manager working on the financial part of it. Usually the engineer is on the technical side, but we got the city clerk on it for the LPA on the in the memorandum of agreement. I know I'm used to engineers dealing with it. Do we work with the engineers to get them to answer the questions on the technical end of it? You know, the LPA is very serious. Okay, all right. So we have a motion, we have a second, we have discussed it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Action agenda item 2022-206, motion to concur with the Planning Commission recommendation to deny Taco Bell's request for a variance from the zoning ordinance Article 4.19 to allow the construction of a monument sign with 0 feet of the property, within 0 feet of the property line, to deny the request for the west-facing tower sign, and to approve the request to allow the wall-mounted sign on the south side facing of the building. Case number 2022002000. Could I get a motion to concur with the south-facing sign? Deny the rest?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? All in favor?
Aye.
Action agenda item 2022-027, motion to award quote for Diamond Head Drive East Culvert replacement to Morian Hauling, Inc. in the amount of $18,583.80, plus an additional $11,204.25 for an additional work relating to rerouting a water main for the total project cost of $29,788.05. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Cumberland. Any discussion to my left? I have about 1 million questions. Any to my right? What exactly is this project? How did it originate?
So we have a failed culvert under Diamond Head Drive East that's caused a sinkhole on the side of the road. You've already seen a little pile of rocks. This is kind of, again, across from the tennis courts. So we've just kind of been waiting. Since Moran was here, we got 2 quotes, DNA, and Moran said, hey, what would it take to basically change this metal culvert out, run it across the street? Should be done in a day or two. Came in at 18,000. I think the other one was in the 20-something thousand, low 20s, to go do it. So they started it. They got the first half, I'm going to call it the south side, or eastbound traffic, replaced. They went in the next day to do the westbound traffic lane. The metal pipe was basically sitting on top of a water line, which the water department requires an 18-inch separation, but the actual was sitting literally next to it, so they hand dug it out. We had to stop construction, basically closed up or packed up the road so we can open up the road again, and communicated with the water department, said, okay, what do we have to do here? Got their specs, ordered parts to reroute that water line to be 18-inch separation from our new pipe. So they're gonna do, today they notified residents on a water shutdown for tomorrow to continue working.
So we already started the project,
The project started last week.
so why are we approving it? Why is it on the
'Cause
agenda?
Originally, the project is under $25,000, which is within my spending authority. So we said, move forward with it, which is nothing unusual. The point is, when we had to go and spend another 11, now we're at 29, which is over the threshold.
And these quotes are back from February the 4th. And they usually are 30 days good, which these quotes would be good through, and I'm gonna give you some days, March 15th. I'm gonna give some days. But we used them for now.
We had pulled this, I mean, it's been a couple of months that we've had these quotes and pulled the project. So we've just been waiting for Moran to be able to pull off of basically east or whatever and get over there. So this is, I mean, the quotes aren't old. We had pulled the PO based, a while back.
But they say they're good for 30 days. And I guess my point on this is, if you're working with quotes and they're good for 30 days and you don't do the project, when you do it, then you go get more quotes. And that's just how I feel about it. So I'm not gonna vote for it because I feel the quotes need to be within the 30 days of the project and then have it on the agenda. And these are very old quotes. So I don't know that one of these others, and especially with the economy today and the way prices are changing, I don't even know how they honored this that far out.
We thought the cost would have gone up.
I know.
The PO was pulled within 30 days and they agreed to do the project. And it was just a matter of time for them to get over there to do the project. So we've already contracted with them to do it within that 30-day window. So the PO was pulled while they were 30 days old.
And that 11,000, I'm guessing, is just from the last week.
That's the water, that's rerouting the water line.
Yeah,
That's the new piece.
Did they use any city culverts for this?
I
Any
believe,
that
actually, I
we
think
had-
we supplied the culvert for this.
We supplied the culverts and it's this?
I want to say that we had that in the back, just,
So we
What I have in my
supplied the
head.
culverts and we delivered the culverts? Or did,
I don't remember who delivered the culverts.
okay.
Not into that.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Yes, I'm opposed. All right, we don't have any department reports, any non-agenda public comments? Okay, I am going to move to go into executive session to discuss the need for executive session. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.